Seaman apprentice Ryan Sawyer Mays was in court for the first time this week, charged with arson and hazarding a vessel in the fire that destroyed the USS Bonhomme Richard in July 2020. No one saw the fire break out in the lower vehicle hold, shown here in older photographs. The hold was crammed with boxes, hoses, and construction equipment as the ship finished its maintenance cycle. 2 sailors made it to the bottom of the ramp, but smoke and heat drove them back. Defense experts poked holes in the investigators' conclusion that it was arson, saying they couldn't rule out lithium-ion batteries or a spark from inside the forklift parked in the bay where the fire broke out.
It is one of the tougher crimes to prove, and it does have a relatively low clearance rate, according to the FBI uniform crime reports.
Robert Shaw is a former fire investigator with ATF who now works with Gulf Coast Fire in Florida.
Sometimes you can prove it's arson, but you can't prove who did it. Sometimes you can't prove it's arson, so you never get to who did it. So there are a lot of complicating factors in arson cases that are not associated with other crimes.
Naval Criminal Investigative Service interviewed Mays for more than 9 hours on August 20th, 2020, before taking him into custody. Mays lied about details of his time in SEAL basic training. He said that the Navy sucked, but he never admitted to setting the fire. A military police officer testified that as Mays learned that he was being taken into custody, a dejected Mays said, "I guess I did it." But even she wasn't sure whether he was serious.
He has continued to maintain his innocence with regard to these allegations.
Gary Bartel is Mays' civilian attorney. He spoke briefly at the end of the 3 days of hearings. Prosecutors portrayed Mays as hating the Navy.
Well, obviously, his attitude has changed now, given the allegations that have been made against him. But his intent was always to return back to BUD/S and be a SEAL.
The Navy painted Mays as upset about being sent to a ship after he voluntarily left training to be a SEAL called Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL at Coronado. BUD/S is famously difficult with a high failure rate. Anyone who doesn't make it is sent to the regular Navy. It's actually a problem, says Lawrence Brennan, a former naval officer and a law professor at Fordham University.
They go back to his days when he was in BUD/S, when he wanted to be a SEAL. And, it's a problem when you have a smart person who is frustrated and goes from the world where he thinks he's going to be a SEAL and all the things that entails in reality as well as in his vision, and then gets sent to a ship where he or she is given a cruddy job.
The Navy declared the USS Bonhomme Richard a total loss after the fire burned for more than 4 days in San Diego. Though no one died, it was still a very public failure for the Navy. There is pressure to find out who is responsible, says outside arson investigator Robert Shaw.
I would say yes. I would say the higher the profile of the case, the more pressure there is on the government to have accountability. So here you've lost a multi-billion-dollar vessel.
The hearing officer will likely take several weeks to review the testimony and reports before recommending to the admiral in charge of the Third Fleet whether Mays should face court-martial. The legal standard is probable cause, which is not an overly high bar. If it goes to trial, the burden to prove that it was arson will be higher. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.